name is Michelle Cox, and I am a certified life coach. And this is the model that I have developed. It's a cognitive behavioral model, and I've developed it in a very visual format because I want to help my clients, I want to help you to understand the relationship between what you're thinking and believing and how you feel, and then how you then behave. It all creates a result that then can keep the cycle going on and on and on. So we're going to start with writing into the cloud, which is, I like to say, um, the neutral zone. In the cloud, these are the things that are just the bare facts about a situation. They are just stripped down to, having removed any sort of dramatic adjectives. So instead of saying my children were fighting or my children were behaving like little demons at the restaurant, you might want to say something more like my children couldn't agree about the menu. They had, my children didn't agree about the food, what was good or what was bad. You want to keep it very simple, right? So if I added in there, my children threw temper tantrums and they were disruptive and they were horrible and they were so out of control, that's a lot of thinking about it that you're creating. You're attaching all of that meaning to it and you're creating a lot of drama about it. So you have to really strip it all away to what was the literal behavior that was happening. The children were disagreeing about the food. Okay, so we're going to keep it that simple and put this in the cloud. And then I'm going to show you how your thinking about their behavior creates an emotional experience, which then translates into the way that you behave, and then how you feel about yourself and about your children, how your relationships are impacted by the way you think. Okay, so my children disagreed about the food. And I don't have to be at a restaurant for this scenario to play out. It's like every night at the dinner table, right? Someone likes what I made, someone doesn't, and then they have to like badger each other about it, right? Well, then you don't like this, but you also don't like this other food. Well, you like it, but you don't like this other thing. And I'm like, okay, you guys, maybe you can relate, right? I'm a mother of six. So I've really seen a lot. I've experienced a lot. I have lived to tell the tale, which I'm so glad that I've been able to survive this long. Okay, so my children disagreed about the food. And if I'm thinking I'm going to take first the route of focusing on my children's behavior and not my own, but just thinking about their behavior. And a little preamble I'm going to give this as well is that sometimes when I'm coaching parents and we're talking about the behavior of their child that they're frustrated about, and how difficult it can be to control your child, of course, I'll ask the question, if you could only pick one, which would you pick? Your child is in control and you're not of yourself, or you are in control of yourself, but your child is not in control of him or herself. What would you rather have? Your child is out of control, or you are out of control? And it's interesting how often parents believe that if I can just control my child, then I'll be better. I'll behave better because my child is in control. And so if I'm going to pick one, I'm going to pick my child is in control. Therefore, then I can be happy and things are easy and I can just naturally be in control. Um, and instead of looking at, but if I'm in control of myself, I can then influence my child and guide my child back into a calm state. And that's what I want to demonstrate today. So, my children disagreed about the food, and I'm going to start, like I said, with the children's behavior. They are out of control. I'm going to have all these thoughts. They are out of control. They are terrible. I never want to eat out with them again. and I hope you can read my writing, okay? That's why I say it as well when I'm writing. So, what I wrote was, they are out of control. They're terrible. I never want to eat out with them again. I'm focusing on their behavior, right? And if I underlying underneath that, so a lot of times this is the like the conscious level thinking is just, what's on the surface, and we're just like, I can't believe what they're doing. But then underneath that, if we have a belief because they behave that way, that means I'm a bad parent. That's very subconscious, and we don't notice it right away. Sometimes it can kind of percolate up, and we'll start to say things like, I am a terrible parent. But there's something going on, and I want to demonstrate this. When we're seeing all this stuff, we're talking about our children's behavior in a really negative way, and underneath that we are believing it's because I'm a bad parent. We have a very distinctive reaction, emotionally, which is physical, to the situation. So I'm going to put that all here as well. Sorry, let me fix my grammar, my spelling. Their behavior means I'm a bad parent. Okay, so how do you feel inside? And that's this part of this chart right here. How do you feel inside when you believe you're a bad parent because of how your children behave? Just feel that for a moment. My children's bad behavior is my fault. And it means I'm a bad parent. I haven't been teaching them. I haven't done my best job that I should have done. I've failed to do what I'm supposed to do, teach my children how to always be in control and always manage themselves and never have problems. Or if they start to act up, I can just like snap my finger and they just calm right down. If I can't make that happen, somehow that means I'm a bad parent. If we have that running, that in the subconscious part of our mind, and our subconscious brain is really the most powerful part of our brain, because um, our conscious thinking is going to depend on our subconscious belief. And so when we need to change how we're thinking, a lot of times we've got to start with what we're believing about ourselves, or believing about our capacity, our worth, um, what we can make requests about or set boundaries, things like that. So if I'm thinking they're terrible and it's my fault, I'm a bad parent, I think we're going to feel a lot of shame, right? We're going to feel discouraged. They can't improve their behavior because I'm a bad parent. They can't learn because I can't teach them. I'm not good at it. I'm not good enough at it. And so it can be a very defeating experience. And so for a parent who's sitting in a restaurant and their children are behaving poorly and they're making it mean that they're a bad parent, they're feeling discouraged, but they're probably also um, very likely to be in fight mode, and they start to get upset or angry. I guess some parents could go into flight mode, and that's when you're just like slipping them devices just to kind of, um, uh, turn them mute and turn off the brain waves and just like turn them into zombies, because then they won't act out. You're like numbing them and trying to create this sedative for them, right, with devices. And so I think that would probably be more of a flight mode measure, that you're not addressing it, you're going around it and trying to just stop it. So if we are experiencing that kind of shame, I'm a bad parent because my children are acting up, because I can't easily control them, I can't easily make them stop. We're going to have a sense of being out of control And it's not fair to ourselves to do this because we were never meant to just control our kids. We can't control anybody else's thinking. We can't control their emotions. We can't control their behavior. We can become so domineering that they finally just submit until eventually later they might rebel and just, you know, um, you have a big outburst. And so, before I give you any sort of solution, I want to just paint this picture. When we think that we're a bad parent because of their behavior, then we're putting a lot of also responsibility for their behavior on ourselves, and we're not giving them that responsibility to control themselves and to have that sense of accountability. We're taking it away from them and we're putting it on ourselves. So we're stripping them of any sort of power to manage themselves and to make better choices. We're trying to do it for them. And and so everybody kind of becomes unempowered. So then in the decision action arrow, when we are thinking, believing I'm a bad parent because my children can't pull it together in the restaurant, and I'm feeling that shame, I'm feeling that discouragement, then I'm much more likely um, to become like verbally loud. I think that we can become more explosive and try to control that way because we're not feeling that security. So let's say then there's maybe some yelling, there's maybe some blaming, and and then you might resort to handing out devices to try to just um, make everybody just shut off and turn off and shut down, right? So, which seems like the easy way out. Then you're not having to deal with it anymore. So, hand out devices. Let's just make everybody get a sedative from that experience. Hand out devices, treating it like a sedative, okay? And I understand. There have definitely been some times where I'm like, okay, what we're going into is a situation where we really have to be quiet. Maybe I'm going to a city council meeting and I have to take my kids with me. So there have been a couple times where I let them watch something quietly with earbuds because I didn't want to miss the meeting. Where I thought, if I try to just bring paper and pencil and try to keep them quiet that way, it might not work out. And I want to be able to speak and be a part of this meeting. So, yes, I get it. But I really try to make it as rare as possible to be handing out devices to my children. I'm trying not to use them as a sedative. Okay. So, when we have this sort of thing going on, then the result is that the parent feels unempowered and can't really step into their role as a teacher and a mentor. Okay. And then the children, they're not learning. A better way. Okay, so they're not going to be given that opportunity to really learn what is the best way to resolve a conflict. What is really the best way to behave when you're in a public setting and to not be disruptive and to have an enjoyable experience and to, keep the environment peaceful and fun because that's what we want to experience when we go to a restaurant. So this can then keep this cycle going and going and going when a parent is feeling unempowered and children they're not learning. They're not going to learn when the parent is taking away the responsibility from the children, putting it on themselves. Their behavior is because of me. And sometimes it could be, sure, if you're like slapping your child and you're getting mad at them, yelling at them, you're adding fuel to the fire. So yeah, you're not helping the situation. But we also have to remember that children are underdeveloped brains, and their behavior is a mark of underdeveloped skills. Every single behavior is based on skills of some kind, maybe a cluster of skills or one particular skill. And so when we have an expectation for children to behave like little adults, we're first of all not letting them be children. We're not giving them the room to be the underdeveloped brain with the underdeveloped skill set that they really do truly have. And we can come at them really harshly, and it's very unfair. So then they don't have a sense of capacity to learn when they're only being told that what they're doing is wrong and not good enough. So when we take a perspective as parents that we are mentors, we are mentoring children into better behaviors through skill learning. We're teaching them this is the proper way, this is the expectation that I have, and now let's practice that behavior. Let's get better at that skill. And negotiation, compromise, being peaceful with your sibling at the table, and being okay with them liking meatballs when you like chicken fingers. It doesn't matter. We can learn these skills of harmony and group cohesion. These are all skills, and we cannot expect young children to be experts at it. So we have to realize they're going to be they're going to have conflict. They're going to stir up these maybe contentious moments amongst themselves. We have an important part to play as parents. And so in interest of time, I'm not going to go through it again in from the other perspective of a parent who's uh, focused on their own behavior, their own bad behavior, therefore I'm a bad parent, because this is really the same process and it's the same principles. So but I do want to walk you through going through the cycle one more time, but from a positive, a self-affirming, and a very compassionate and realistic new way to go through it. Okay, so first time through, and I know that the writing is really small, it says my children uh, disagreed about the food at the restaurant, right? They're arguing over like which food is better than the other one, and it gets into a big heated fight. They might start shoving each other, and they're getting in each other's faces. So then you can have a response to that, and it starts with your thinking. So if you're thinking they're out of control, they're terrible, I never want to eat out with them again, and underneath you're believing their bad behavior is my fault, it means I'm a bad parent because my children are acting up. My children are being children, and they shouldn't be. They should be perfect little soldiers when we go out in public. And because they're not, then I'm to blame. I'm a bad parent. And we take away that responsibility and that agency that they really have, and we're taking that responsibility on ourselves. Okay? When we do that, then we feel the shame and discouragement of taking on someone else's responsibility. Our children still own that. They own their behavior, they own their thinking, they own their emotions, and we don't have to own it. We can give that right back and say, I'm here to teach you, but I'm not going to take the ownership of your behavior, because their body is going to do their thing with their nervous system firing them in certain ways. And we can have influence to make it worse. We can have influence to rein it in. So in this model, then when we're feeling that shame and we're feeling that discouragement, we're more likely to be yelling and blaming, and then maybe resorting to the devices as a sedative, just like shut down their brains, and we're just going to turn them off. But then the parent is unempowered and not feeling that sense of their role. Children are not learning a better way. Okay, because again, this is all skills. We're all learning skills, including parents. We are learning skills, right? So with this model, we can erase everything except for what's in the cloud, because circumstances don't have to change before we make changes in ourselves. And a big part of that is understanding our thoughts. What are the thoughts that are underneath the emotions, and what's fueling all of this, right? Okay, sorry, this is taking a minute. Okay, here we go. That's better. Okay, so let's go back to the scenario of you are at the restaurant with your children. And one says, "Oh, I'm so excited to order meatballs because meatballs are so good and they're the best." And the other kid is like, "No, chicken fingers are better. Meatballs are disgusting." And they start this big argument, and it can turn into shoving and all that's happening. What you are going to do now is up to you. And because you're a good parent and you believe that about yourself, you are not going to be as easily triggered into fight or flight, worried about what other people are thinking, not wishing they would control themselves before you can control yourself. You know, because you believe it, that you are a good parent. Sometimes things are really hard and you don't handle things as well as you want to, but most of the time you do handle it well and you want to improve and you want to learn better ways. That's why you're watching podcasts and you're reading books and you're doing all the work. Maybe some of you see a therapist or a life coach. Fantastic. You want to change patterns that you grew up with. Bless you. We need people like you who want to change patterns and change habits. It takes intention and careful thinking and planning, and this is what this type of work is all about. Dissecting it all, putting it into the categories, seeing the pieces of the puzzle where they go, and then better knowing, what do I normally do? What's kind of my default or my go to when something like this is really uncomfortable and I'm in public and I don't like the way my children are behaving? What can become my go to is not to yell and blame and try to sedate my children with devices. We can find better ways. And this is one way to do it. It's to dissect what's been happening and decide how you want it to play out next time. You have to start with that belief, I am a good parent. Sometimes this is out of my league. It feels too hard. It feels overwhelming, and I really don't know what to do. But I know that because I'm a good parent, I can control myself and I can be a better mentor and teacher to my children. They can learn from me better when I stay in control rather than when I'm out of control and using loud voices and physical grabbing or whatever to dominate them and just shut them down. So I'm going to show them that this is a healthy way to communicate and there are ways to learn without fear and dominion and making things more volatile, because now parents are getting mad too and getting into the mix, right? So a lot of times the thought that needs to be the new trigger for everything else working better can be harder to find. But I am going to start with, I'm a good parent. That's got to be the subconscious belief. I don't have to be perfect to be good. I don't have to be perfect to be a good parent. I just have to care and to try and to make improvement. And my improvement can be slow, it can be gradual, but I am trying. I'm caring for my kids, I'm providing the best that I can, giving them food and shelter, and I'm making time to be in a close connection with them. I'm doing what I can. We all have limitations of different kinds. We all have totally different situations. We can't judge each other. We're going to do our best. But believing, starting with that subconscious program, I am a good parent, that's going to make other thoughts percolate up that will then fuel your direct emotion and behavior. Okay, so install that. Take that in, because we can be so hard on ourselves. We can get so down on ourselves when our children don't behave right, or we feel like we have blown it. We didn't behave well. We didn't handle that right. I should have done this. I should have done that. I shouldn't have gotten so angry. Yeah, okay, sure. But what are you going to do to get yourself to the person you want to become? It has to start with believing you already are good and you have capacity to get better. So take that in. This is something I've had to really learn. I've definitely had times where I've just blown it. I've been too angry, too impatient. Um, I have a lot of regrets that way. But I want my regrets um, to become little like runway lights and say, this is the direction I do want to go. I feel bad about these mistakes, but they're going to keep me away from where I don't want to be. And they're going to kind of guide me towards the mom, the parent that I want to be. This is who I'm working on becoming. And I am a better mom today than I was 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. I've had to come through a lot of trial and error, a lot of mistakes, and I want to take all these mistakes of the past. My oldest is 22, my next one's 20, then 18, then almost 14, 10, and 8. So I have a really big age span. I have so many mistakes I could gather up and just like make a legacy hall of sadness. My mistakes. But I want to turn them into the runway lights. And I say, this is my lane. This is where I want to be. This is the parent that I want to be to my children. And all these mistakes are going to kind of line it up with light saying, good, I don't need to go over here. I want to stay here. Those past mistakes are showing me where I want to be. I don't want to be over there. I want to be here. And this is where I'm going to go. And so start with that subconscious belief. I'm a good parent. Okay, I'm a good parent in training. I'm a good parent in development. I'm a good parent in process. And I'm going to be better and better the more I intentionally decide this is who I am, this is who I want to be. So when the problems arise, I'm not going to get triggered so easily to lose control of myself. Because I hope that we can all come away from this seeing, if I had to choose between my child is in control and I'm out of control, or I'm in control and my child is out of control, I hope we can see this is actually the optimal thing. My child is out of control, but I'm in control myself. That's really where the healing and the learning and the teaching can happen. My child will not learn from me the best when I'm out of control. So that really is the ideal scenario. My child's out of control, but I'm in control of myself. That's when my higher brain is lit up. I can become reasonable. I can evaluate, okay, was he hungry? Was she tired? Did she have a bad day? Is she uncomfortable? Does she have like a cut finger and that's still bothering her? And so she's like really um, more easily triggered by other people. I become so much more curious and so much more compassionate and realistic in my expectations when I am in my higher brain and I'm in control of myself and not trying to control my child. I'm ready to let them kind of be a little messy and then see how I can help rein them in and then teach them. Help them to work on that skill and get better at it. So if I'm thinking I'm a good parent, I want to think something else as well. We're going to come to that at the end. How would I rather feel if I'm in control of myself? Oh, what would my emotional state be if I feel that I am literally in control of myself? I'm not in fight or flight. I don't like what's happening. Maybe I'm a little bit activated, but I still am in control of myself. What are my emotions going to be? I don't like the way they're behaving, but I'm curious, right? So I'm gonna write that here. Curious. Okay. What might be contributing to them arguing? Did they fight over who was going to sit in which seat? Was there already some other sibling rivalry happening before we even got here? Or are they disappointed? They wanted to go to a different restaurant. They wanted to go somewhere else. Or, just like, but as we become curious, we can see the whole picture. We can see all of it, right? Okay, so I'm curious, but what else? When I'm looking for other reasons why my child might be uncomfortable or unhappy or upset or triggered some way, I'm also going to have compassion. I'm going to say, yeah, he is tired or she's hurt or I'm going to notice he tends to pick on her. So no wonder she's going to kind of snap back. No wonder. And they're only, I don't know, let's make up some numbers, 5 and 7. Okay, a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old. My expectations need to be for a 5 and a 7-year-old, not for a 25-year-old and a 27-year-old, right? A 5-year-old, very underdeveloped frontal lobe, and a 7-year-old, slightly more developed, but very little, right? My expectations will be more realistic. So I'm curious, I'm compassionate. Um, but I'm also going to feel firm resolve that I'm going to teach them. I'm going to set limits and boundaries. I might need to say, all right, I'm going to take you outside and let's calm down. Let's get a breath of fresh air. We're going to try to distract your brain and get out of this loop of fixation that you're in, or find something in the restaurant. Oh, look at that. Look at that picture on the wall. What do you see there? That's so interesting. That's so pretty or so funny. Or let's draw on the children's menu. Maybe has games. Let's do those games. Looking for distraction. Um, and then once they're calm, then you can really teach. So first we're trying to bring our child out of that fight mode, and then we'll be able to teach them. Then this part of the brain turns back on and they're more able to learn and to retain that knowledge and that guidance in that new skill that they're trying to develop, or that you're trying to help them develop. They don't even realize it, right? So your decision then, when you have compassion and you are curious and you're staying in a state of safety, then you are going to, let's see, let's also put patience here. You might try to ask them questions. Oh, what is it about meatballs that you don't like? Why do you like chicken fingers? What makes them so delicious to you? Asking them questions can help turn this part of the brain on and turn off the emotional part of the brain. Oh, that sounds really good. I had the best meatballs when I went to this place, or I have a memory about chicken fingers at this other place, and we were on a picnic. I don't know. Start to tell a story. You're going to ask questions. You might, yeah, tell a story, find ways to engage them. Okay. That's really the best way to distract from a fight. The kids are getting rambunctious. They're fighting, they're arguing. You can tell stories, you can capture their attention and their imagination, right? Um, so then when you are in this cycle happening right here, your result is you stay in control. So parent stays calm. You're still calm. Yay. Good job, you. Children de-escalate. And then when everybody has kind of calmed down, then the teaching, the mentorship can happen as a parent, right? So then you can teach. That's when you want to teach. That's not the time isn't when they're fighting. They're like, this is not how we behave in a restaurant. You need to sit down and be quiet. You're yelling what you're teaching. Their brain is turned off. They're not going to retain it. They're not going to absorb it. Okay, so what does the thought up here need to be? My children disagreed about the food. They're fighting over who's right. What's better, meatballs or chicken fingers? And if you have that subconscious belief, I'm a good parent, then you might think thoughts like, I wonder how I can help them resolve this. I wonder how I can help them resolve this. I'm instantly in a troubleshooting mode. I'm instantly looking for good ideas. And I'm instantly noticing, that wouldn't help, that wouldn't help, that wouldn't help. Okay, this could help. Let me try this. I'm going to ask questions. I'm going to get curious. And I'm going to try to find out more about their day. I'm going to try to find out the backstory. I'm going to then look for ways to entertain them and find ways to distract and calm things down. And then later we can talk about, when we were in the restaurant earlier, boy, that was really sad to see you guys treating each other like that. And make it be like as little about the public space and how embarrassing. Make it so much more about, but you are brother and sister. You're siblings. What a beautiful gift to have a sibling. Wow. You're not enemies. What do you think would be a better way to respond when we start to have that kind of disagreement? If we want to be a peaceful family, what would you need to say so that you don't cause more disruption and fighting? Then you can offer them a script and say, I'm happy for you that you like meatballs. That's nice. I like chicken fingers. You can teach children to say that, but it won't be taught and learned when this part of the brain is turned off because they're in fight mode and we are contributing to that by yelling at them and trying to control them or taking away their power to be responsible for themselves. Okay, so that's that. The thought then, I said, I wonder what would help. I wonder what I could do to help them resolve this. Okay. So asking children questions is really good. Asking yourself questions. What could I do? What could I do right now? And not like a despairing, like, what could I possibly do? Nothing's working. But in that hopeful way, asking questions with hope. I'm a good parent, so I wonder what I will find in my bag of tricks that's going to help them. I wonder what's going to work out, what's going to help. And so coming at it from that angle, having the thought be an active way of troubleshooting and looking for a good solution and believing you can find it because you are a good parent and you have the capacity. Your child is yours. You know your children better than anybody else. You have a special bond, a special connection that you can have the greatest influence. So look at your family patterns. Are they built on fighting and domineering to try to stop fights and the sibling squabbles? Are you trying to just squash it? Or are you trying to help them to resolve it and learn and develop skills? It's going to be the long road. You've got to take the long road here. It's going to take years of them learning and years of you calmly mentoring. And sometimes you won't be calm and you will get upset and you will lose your cool. And then you're going to rein back in and say, wait, here are my airport runway lights. I don't want to do that. That's not the parent I want to be. Okay, so I'm going to go apologize to my kids. Whew. I'm going to actively work on visualizing myself as the parent that I want to be, the one that's in control of myself, and then I can help my child. This is called the bedhead dance. Try spinning her the other direction. Let's see what happens.
That means we have to spin like this.
Oh, you guys are so sweet.